Here we go, Night and Day, Disclavier, half speed style. Okay, remember I said we could start with a B major, and I did, but I approached that with the dominant seventh, the F sharp 7. That was kind of interesting. It's I made a major chord, a diminished chord, so E flat diminished resolving to E flat major. You could do that on major chords. It works well. Again to the B major. Now here's those familiar passing chords on a major chord. Voicings have added notes in them, ninths mostly. It's an 11th in the melody there. All over a B flat pedal. Little melodic fill. Down to the B major again. There's that diminished going to major. Passing chords. See, I'm trying to break it up a little bit. Use one device one time, another time. I'm arpeggiating down. Well, I did. Little melodic fill. Jumped a little there, but went 5 to 1 on the G flat. Keeping a B flat pedal. Up to the D flat 7. Okay, those were just chordal voicings, voicings mostly in fourths based on the prevailing mode of the chord. A couple of brush-by notes that we don't need. Some minor chords with the ninths added. This is interesting. What I did here was I put a tag at the end of this, and that's something you can do on a tune. You don't always have to end right at the end. You can extend it a little bit. So it's F. Okay, let me just tell you what that tag was. It was F minor, F sharp diminished, G minor, C7. And now we're going to put a tag on top of a tag. That was F sharp 7, B major, D flat 7, G flat major, B flat 7, ending on the E flat major. So feel free to create some tags, some intros, some endings on these tunes. It helps put them in a nice perspective. Night and Day. Okay, let's take a look at the reharmonized version of Night and Day now, and I'll give you a rundown of what was going on there. So you'll remember on the original changes, that first chord was actually either F minor or it could have been B major, which is kind of a tritone substitution, even though you're changing the quality a little bit. I decided to keep the first chord the same initially. So my first chord is not really reharmonized at all, but then I go, and I'm putting this over a pedal now. So I went F minor to G7 sharp 9 instead of the B flat, which is something you can do quite often, substituting a dominant 7th chord, a minor third away from the original one. And that resolved to a C minor, and I kept that G pedal in the bass. And now this is sort of similar to the original changes again, but now it's B flat sus4 instead of F minor. I went up to the 5 chord here, and now I'm going up stepwise, half stepwise now, and resolving to C minor. So B flat sus4 to B diminished to the C minor. And now here in the original tune, it was A minor 7 flat 5. Well, I like that half diminished quality, so I decided to see if I could use it here. And it really fit well because what I did was I played C sharp minor 7 flat 5. It's the same chord quality but a different root. The reason it works is because the melody note now is the flat 5 instead of what it was before to the other chord, which was the 7th. Let's see. I did a 2-5 here, and then I decided to do it again because it goes down a whole step. that led me nicely to the F minor, which is actually the original chord, and the B sus, which is an original chord. But then I depart again. I go down a half step. The melody note is a constant tone between the B flat sus 4, and now it becomes an A7 flat 9. And I wanted to resolve somewhere other than what your ear would expect, so I went to an A flat minor with a major 7. So here's that last phrase. Now this repeats, you'll hear it a little more in context. Now here we go to the bridge, and the original bridge actually goes to G flat major, but I'm going to B major, which is a fourth away, and it works because the melody note is also found in that chord. It becomes the ninth of that B major chord, and I approach that with its dominant 7th. So it sounds pretty natural, and it really doesn't sound that far afield from the original. And I decided to go to E flat. What I've done is I've sort of reversed the original bridge. The original bridge well, actually it does go back to E flat, so I've gone back to E flat, but I've kept a B flat pedal point. So let's take it from this is kind of the same as the original, except for here. Now we're back to those minor 7 flat 5s to dominant 7s. Now I made a little tag at the end of this. A flat minor with a major 7, B minor with a major 7, and resolving, of all places, to E flat major 7. So we kind of diverted a little bit from the original harmonies, but not as much as we had before in some of the other tunes. Okay, you ready for another contrafact? This is my contrafact of Night and Day, which I've done some interesting things with this. First of all, I changed the meter, which we haven't really done before. Now, in other words, the original tune is in 4/4, and I've taken the original harmonies now and put them in 3/4 time signature. So immediately it gives it a different flavor, different feel, obviously. And I've elongated some of the chords, the harmonic rhythm, which is something that I spoke about before. So with that in mind, this is my contrafact of Night and Day, which I call In Love with Night. Okay, next on my list of standards, Body and Soul, another very familiar tune, and another very great tune, actually. So let's take a look at the melody and the harmony in its purest form. Three-note voicings or two-note voicings in the left hand and just melody note in the right hand, single note. Okay, that's a nice movement down from the E flat minor to the D7. I like that movement too, the D flat major to the G flat 7. And you notice I'm once again arpeggiating these chords in the left hand because I can't quite reach them. Chords move quite quickly here. One per beat, which is unusual. And that repeats. Quick chords again. You don't have to play it quite that fast if you don't want to. Now we're modulating, and we're really just going from D flat major to D major. So we're approaching the D major with its 5 chord, and that's actually written into the tune. It's nice. Just goes up a half step, really. And this is a progression up scale-wise, diatonic movement of chords. That's kind of unusual in D major to have a G minor and a C7. But it's a half step above, really, and it's built into the tune. Something to fill up that D major for a bar. Now it seems like a long time, even though it's only a bar. This is kind of nice, where he goes down in half steps, dominant 7th chords. This is the A section again. I like that diminished chord there. You might want to do a retard here. Added a couple of extra notes there, a 9th and a major 7th. And that's Body and Soul. Okay, let's now take a look at an arrangement of Body and Soul, a little bit more filled out, and I'll play that for you, and once again do the disclavier routine, and we'll see what we got. Okay, let's check that out now. All right, Body and Soul, which is a ballad to begin with, so now we're slowing it down 50%. We're really going to be able to see what's going on. Okay, I made that a D7 sharp 9. Just look at the voicings, see what you can get out of those. Dominant 7th approach chord from a half step above. Adding some extra notes in there, 9ths, 11ths, 13ths. Just taking my time here with the turnaround. And let me tell you, the turnaround is similar to what the beginning of the tune is. Well, in the tune somewhere, D flat, G flat 7, F minor, B flat 7. Here I'm just doing a little melodic fill based on a half step, whole step diminished scale. So you can look at that. Little grace notes, inner voice movements. There's that half step, dominant 7th approach chord again. Filling up those chords a little bit. That's a chordal fill there. By chordal, I mean chords built in fourths based on the prevailing mode, which happen to be A Mixolydian. Now I'm just arpeggiating in the left hand. Even just doing that fills it out nicely. Here I departed from the melody a little bit, just took a little bit of poetic license, because you can do that with a ballad, you get a little rhapsodic. There are those passing chords, grace notes, voicing in fourths, more or less. The grace note of the flat 13 going to the natural 13. There's a run that's going out a little bit out of range on a B flat 7, half step, whole step, diminished scale. Now, that time through, instead of playing E flat minor, B flat 7, I played E flat minor, major 7, E flat minor 7, E flat 6, I think. And then I went to the D7. There's that G flat 7 to the F minor, E diminished. Downward motion, half step, dominant 7th approach, in the same place on this tune on pretty much every time. Now here's another deceptive cadence. Instead of going D flat, I go E major, D major, D flat major. As long as it fits the melody note, it's kind of nice. Okay, Body and Soul. Okay, now my big challenge here is reharmonizing a tune like this, because number one, you've heard it so many times and the harmonies are so kind of entrenched in that tune along with the melody. They're so intertwined that it seemed like almost impossible to me to come up with something. And also because there's so much movement already built into the tune, as we saw. So this actually, out of all the tunes that I reharmonized for this setting here, was my biggest challenge, and in a way, I think it came out the best of all of them. But well, let's just see what happens here. This is going to be an interesting description. The original chords, right? E flat minor to eventually going to the A flat 7. I started. I didn't know where to begin really, so I did all sorts of experimenting, and I came up with this as a first chord, which is not that far away from the E flat minor. It's dominant 7th, but I made it a sus4. I had to because the melody note is E flat, so I couldn't do that, and I didn't want to do that, so I did that, and that's why I did that. Now here I was, the original chord is still either E flat minor with a major 7 or B flat 7, and I found myself wanting to go there, which is interesting. It's a half step above, and it's a dominant 7th with a sharp 11. And the sharp 11, this, once again, any kind of extension, chord extension or chord alteration that you can put in the melody will give it that much more color and depth. Now here I went to G minor 7 flat 5. In the original it's an A flat 7. So I'm a half step away, but it still works because the melody note is now a third instead of a ninth of that chord. I did my usual logical thing there, a 2-5 progression, G minor to C7. And then that brought me somehow into B major. So let's take a look at that. 2-5, now here's sort of a deceptive cadence. It's not resolving to F, it's resolving to B, which you'll note is a tritone away. And that's another substitute that I can use quite a bit that also you can. Now here was a real challenge, because here is where I felt the harmonic rhythm had to move a bit more. So I put a chord to each beat, which is an idea I got from later in the original version of the tune. And I felt it going up, an ascending bass line. That was kind of nice. Now here, I wanted a little respite from that movement, and actually I'm on the same route as in the original. No, actually I'm not. The original would be F minor there, so I'm a whole step lower. I'm E flat sus4. And actually, you can follow it down. What I did was I followed it down parallel motion, just basing what the melody, where the melody was going. The melody went there, and that brought me to. And this is A flat sus4, and in the original, that part is E flat minor. So we're not really that far removed at this point. Now here. The original has an A flat 7. I went a half step below once again to the G minor with a flat 5. And as happened previously, I went to its 5 chord, and then that brought me back to B major again. Now here, you know, the original goes to D flat major. I thought it might be nice to go do the half step thing before. So that brought me to D major, which is kind of a nice, listen to that resolution. And the reason that works is because the D flat now becomes the major 7th, which is a nice quality of another chord. So it's a D major. And then I wanted to get back to the the B flat sus4. So I kept it an approach of a dominant 7th chord. The melody note remains constant, so now it's an F7 augmented, which leads me back to the B flat. And actually on my recording, I did kind of another nice little trick, which was I played a whole tone scale, and I made a whole big thing on the recording of this whole tone scale. Like a harp. And that sort of